Cool.
And we are live. Hello, everyone. I am here with Maria. How do you say your last name? Angies? Angies?
Oh no, that's my middle name, Agnes.
Oh, okay. So you're keeping it mysterious. Okay,
Yes,
gotcha.
keeping it mysterious. Yes.
See, that's what I
And
should.
my surname's a lot harder to pronounce, so makes it a lot easier.
I'm so tempted.
But you want to know what it is?
Yeah.
It's Chawara.
Chawara.
Yeah,
Oh,
but like if you read it, you would be like, what?
it'd be
I
like
get a lot of
Tachanka, Chewbacca.
sorry.
I'd say like
Yeah.
Tachanka, Chewbacca, and it's just be
Yeah,
bad vibes all around. You'd be like,
I got a lot of Chihuahua when I was in school.
you gotta be careful with those names. Kids
Yeah,
are ruthless.
kids
And
are
they're
assholes.
lazy.
Yeah,
They'll make fun of low-hanging fruit, like names.
Exactly.
That. Yes, but sorry for the detour about names, guys. Getting stuck on the SI. I'm here with Maria. We are going to be having a social interview. So, Maria, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about who you are, your background, education, career.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I usually do better with like specific questions, but okay. Well, my name is Maria.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, my name is Maria, and yep, as it mentioned, I'm an ESFP. Laugh. My background. Oh, what do I say about my background? I live in the UK.
Don't want to talk about it. You know, you can just skip ahead to whatever you're studying, but if you want to talk about your background, we kind of want to know.
Yeah, so I'm a Zimbabwean immigrant. I grew up in the UK, but I'm actually originally from Zimbabwe. Yes.
From where?
Zimbabwe.
Zimbabwe.
Yes, that is in Africa.
Is it one of those small countries kind of on the spot? No,
it's huge.
Huge? They're all huge.
Huge.
I spelled it wrong.
It's not a small country. It's a huge, very, very poor, huge country.
I know. Isn't like Nigeria like the size of America or like half of America?
Yeah. It's I don't know, but like I know that most African people when they think of Africa they think of Nigeria, but there are other countries.
Oh wait, it was Zimbabwe or Zimbabwe?
Zimbabwe with the Z.
Oh, I thought you said Zimbabwe. I was like, that's a country.
Oh. Yeah, no, I said Zimbabwe.
Zimbabwe. I almost want to pull it up and show it to everyone and be like, where is this? We should all get, hey, that looks, I mean, that looks relatively small. Can I pull it up on the screen?
Oh, you bring it up?
Can I?
Yeah, sure, go for it. Yeah, little geography lesson sounds about right.
Okay. Zimbabwe. Oh, here it is. Can you see it?
I love that you're like ready with the map.
Well, I just looked it up. So that's Zimbabwe.
No, that whole thing is Africa. That whole thing.
Well, I know the green.
Oh,
is that Zimbabwe?
Yes.
Well, it looks small on the map, but it's probably actually huge.
Yeah. That map isn't really doing it justice.
Okay. I'm being observatory. I'm learning. I'm a geography major, so. But yes, you're from Zimbabwe. You immigrated to the UK.
Yep.
And yeah, what was that like?
I don't really remember it. It kind of feels like my life is here because I came when I was 7. So most of my memories, I have a few memories from back home, but most of my childhood memories are from here. So it kind of feels like a whole other life that I've lived. So it's very distant from me. My brother, who's 2 years older than me, he has more memories of home than I do, fortunately for him. Yeah.
Does your family ever go back?
My parents do sometimes, depending on like if there's something like funerals and like, but it's really expensive. Like tickets are really expensive. Plus politically, it's not very good, so it's just not ideal to go there. I haven't been back since I was like 8, so it's been a really long time. But like my parents do go back. I think the last time that they went back was maybe like 5 years ago, so it's not that frequent.
Gotcha. So, question: education. Like, what's your education path? Unless you want to elaborate more on that or have anything else to say. But
No, I'm happy to just go with the flow. So mostly education has been psychology related. So obviously I went to primary school, secondary school, nursery, and all of that stuff. And then I did my undergraduate degree in counseling psychology, and then I did my master's degree in applied psychology, and then I did a postgraduate diploma in cognitive behavioral therapy.
mm-hmm.
Um, and some other little short courses between them. But yeah, that a lot of it has just been in psychology, and then mostly like therapy type stuff.
So you chose cognitive behavioral therapy, and I've been doing research on that, and I signed up for a certification just to learn more
Wow.
about it. But currently I'm working on a different certification, but it's in the pipeline.
Yeah.
But is it I've seen like a chart of cognitive behavioral therapy, and it sounds like it's a very you're analyzing like your notes almost or how you're talking.
Can you elaborate on what you mean?
I saw a chart that was like, okay, notice how you're framing the question, like recognize your wordage here.
Ah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So there's a lot of like challenging of beliefs, thoughts. There's a lot of reframing, readjusting. It's basically, I mean, the gist of it is like, our thoughts and our feelings and our behaviors are all connected.
Mm-hmm.
So when people experience difficulties like anxiety or depression, it's because those areas are constantly feeding into each other. And so what we do in CBT is that we help to manage problems with anxiety and depression by addressing how those areas are linked
Mm-hmm.
and how they're feeding into one another. And then we can introduce different CBT techniques to help to break that vicious cycle. So if you make changes in one of those areas, for example, if you start reframing your thoughts, your beliefs, that will have an impact on how you feel. That will also change how you behave and so on. So it's really just about working with those links.
So, but the thing is that what I noticed was doing the error log is very much like, or it's almost the same thing. You're
Pretty much.
basically writing out, and then because you're type, you're like, what am I saying? Ah, fudge, and so like
Yeah.
you're like, God, like what am I avoiding here? What am I
Yeah.
what am I blaming and avoiding here? And you're kind of doing it for yourself.
Yeah.
So it just seems like those two things are lining up, that they're
Yes.
working in reality.
Yeah. When I talk to people a lot about my work, one of the things that I'm always super excited about is how CBT and like OP kind of they marry well together. And so when the error log came out, I felt very at home doing that.
Mm,
I jumped on it straight away, and I was just like really excited because I do a lot of that at work anyway. Like we find like different CBT templates and worksheets and then you would adjust it based on who you're working with and like what you want to start tracking. But yeah, when the error log came out, I was really excited because I was like, yeah, this is this. I felt very at home doing that.
I don't exactly like, or at least it actually it hit me really quick, and I had a really quick crash, but it was coming.
Wow,
So it's
I'm
like,
glad to hear
but it
that.
was nice to have it and be like, so
Yeah,
now, like,
yeah,
and then it's just the same observer issues come up for me, which is like, well, now it's like this is like 2 months long, and the list is getting too long. And are you going to organize it? And well, are you
yeah,
going to lose track of it? And it's like,
yeah.
oh my god, this again,
Yes,
this
yeah,
again. It's
yeah,
the EP syndrome of it's everything in life. Like it's
yeah,
everything.
yeah.
Our OI problems.
Yeah, exactly. Because one of the biggest struggles that I find with like people that I work with is that it's one thing having everything that you're going through internally just in your mind, but it's another thing completely having it all written down in front of you. It's kind of like shocking because then you can see things a lot clearly, and so a lot of people do find that they struggle with just that first part of having things clearly written down because then you kind of have to process what you're seeing. It's a lot easier to then process like what's happening, and then you kind of have to deal with the trauma of that before you even get to the part where you're starting to assess things. So yeah, I can appreciate how hard and challenging that is.
Yeah. Is it is CBT like one of the leading, I don't know, or is it, leading therapies, or I don't know, like maybe this is an intuitive question, but like that it's kind of got research behind it or something like that.
Yeah, especially in the UK, it is one of the leading. It is the leading type of therapy in the UK. The NHS would offer CBT as a first line of treatment. The National Health Service, which is our health service in the UK, so they offer that as a first line of treatment for any disorder, any problem when you go through the NHS,
Mhm.
because they put a lot of funding towards research, because of, there's a lot of research, there's a lot of evidence that supports that it's very effective. It's also cost effective because somebody could do CBT on their own. There's
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can do like CBT as a form of self help, which is different to other types of approaches like counselling or psychotherapy, because oftentimes, obviously, with counselling and psychotherapy, the benefit of going to counselling and psychotherapy is that you have a therapist who can help to facilitate that like discovery process. Whereas with CBT, because a lot of it is practical tools,
Mhm.
techniques, a lot of it is things that you could do on your own, and you could just do CBT as a guided self-help approach, or you could just do it as a pure self-help approach. So it is a lot more cost effective. It means that the NHS doesn't have to train as many clinicians in order to administer CBT, which makes it more cost effective. That's why they,
Yeah,
um,
that makes sense.
yeah,
The only other kind of therapy I actually kind of have heard about and understand is, or have an understanding of, is like the what's it called? It is the exposure therapy, which is good for like trauma specifically. And they're like,
yeah,
expose you to it, wave a magic wand in your head, in your face. I'm like, what? But
yeah,
that's like, if you have phobias or traumas.
yeah,
Um but yeah, that makes sense that it
yeah,
would be a very applicable for your, that is a very CBT is a very applicable form of therapy. It
yeah,
sounds very practical,
exactly.
very,
Yeah.
very practical,
I
which is
do a lot of exposure therapy in work. I do,
oh,
like,
you do?
most of what I do is exposure therapy. Yeah.
Okay, okay,
I would
okay.
say that 65% of my work is exposure.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. That
It's
is
the bread and butter of CBT.
what? It is better.
It's that's the bread and butter of CBT is exposure therapy.
Yeah. I would say for us in OP, I guess it would be doing your demons. I don't know. I don't know. For me, that's what I'm just practicing each week, is trying to be extroverted, exposing myself to it. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's just like yeah. Um so for you, uh like what where this is an intuitive question, so I apologize. It's my safe
That's
grace.
right.
But like where do you see your path going with this therapy stuff? I'm always interested to hear, are you just chilling, or you're like, oh, there's a big thing I'd like to do,
Yeah. Yeah.
what's up?
Well, there's two parts to this question. The first part is for myself. I would like to gain mastery of this craft. So
Mhm.
that's kind of what I'm working at. I have a supervisor. I love him. He's absolutely amazing. It's such a privilege learning under him because he's so experienced. I actually think he's social type number 3, so he's very specialized. He
Mhm.
like knows the craft, and every time I'm working with him, I feel so inadequate because he just knows everything. He's just like, everything is just so specific, and you have to do everything properly. And I'm just there like trying to do too much at once and not really taking it seriously. So like for me, for my own journey, I would like to get to a level where I have mastered the craft of like CBT. Because there are so many like therapists who then end up integrating their approach. So they might be trained in counseling, they might be trained in CBT at the same time, then they might do EMDR and all of these other things. But I think just because I'm a very slow learner, and also because I think it suits my personality, I think I've just kind of decided that CBT is going to be my main type of therapeutic approach, and I'm just going to learn as much as I can, and master this art,
Mm.
because I have come to see it as an art. So I just want to master this art as much as I can. So once I feel like I've literally become a master as a CBT therapist, I feel like that's when I can maybe think about introducing other therapeutic techniques. In terms of maybe a larger purpose,
Mm.
um, I hope that my skills, my therapeutic skills, will be transferable. Because one of the things that I'm very keen on doing is kind of taking that back to my community, because we are still so far behind in terms of like growth and development, and just certain worldviews. And I would
Mm.
really like to be able to build up and upskill my therapy craft so that I can take that back to my community and then just use the things that I've learned, the tools, the skills that I've learned to kind of help other people start to manage their own problems, start to address their own challenges, and deal with their own difficulties. Because there is, therapy and stuff like that. It's still very much the last resort for dealing with problems in my community. So that would be something that I would like to take back to the community once I feel like I've really mastered that. So I can take that skill back and start to like help other people to start to be able to rise, I guess, and to do better for themselves.
I can see I can see where that's in your FI. I can see that, and I totally exactly get that. I totally exactly get that. It's just like this is where I go. This is the origin of where I came from. This is where I was. I got to go back and
Yeah,
help. Like
yeah,
for sure, I get that.
yeah.
That makes sense and absolutely admirable. Um. So question. So question for you is about your social type. Um, I heard, I saw some of your posts and I heard some stuff about your interactions with Dave, like you got through Dave, correct? And he
Yeah.
said that you are a one,
Hmm.
but you're a friendly type for a one.
Hmm.
So how do you I'm just kind of curious, how do you see a big difference between you and like the other unfriendly ones? Because like, yeah, that's what
Yeah,
I'm kind of curious about. Yeah.
yeah. I don't know if because I feel like the underlying drive is similar. It's very, very similar. It's just it's expressed in a very different way, especially with the double feminine like aspect of myself, because I'm very movable, very wishy-washy when it comes to like the extroverted world. Um, I I just look very passive, and I don't when I'm interacting with people, it's just so very. So it looks like I'm friendly, but in my head, like I am like torching everyone. That's how it kind of comes out. But yeah, just the way that I express things, it tends to come out very.
It's so funny that I'm the opposite, where I just go around and be like, "You dumbass, you idiot, you're fucking up," and then it's like on the back end, they're like, "Why are you dealing with that person? Why are you talking to that person? Why are you not?" I was like, "Oh, I like them. I like
Yeah,
them. Oh, they're great. Oh, everyone's fine. Oh, I don't care."
yeah,
Like,
yeah. I mean, like the best example that I can give you, like especially when it comes to like the tribe thing, with the double feminine thing, is like I remember I did some teaching experience a few years ago, and I was working in a primary school as a teacher, as a learning support assistant, and the teacher, and this was a bunch like year two. I don't know, they're like 6 years old. I don't know what grade that is in the States, but it was what we call year two. So they're like a bunch of 6-year-olds, right? And the teacher left me in charge of the class, and she basically gave me permission to yell at the kids if they were being naughty. And they all started being naughty. And then I remember just feeling so like intimidated. And then I tried to raise my voice, and I was like, "You kids better stop this right now!" And it just came as it came out as just like such a whisper, and all of the kids started laughing at me, and it was just the most embarrassing thing ever, because I could not yell, I could not raise my voice. I just
hmm,
don't have it in me to just it doesn't come out. It just
that
comes
is
out. Yeah.
So for me, it's in my daily life. I'm walking around the house and I'll just like mumble stuff. I'm like, oh wait, I actually should tell people around me what is going on so that they're not like, what did you? It's like, but then like, it's so funny that once I start talking, or like even it's like, it's the way I even talk to my dog. I'm like, sit. Like I take the dog for a walk. I go, Penny, run faster. Run faster.
Wow.
Like, it's like that chance to like start blasting. And when I go out dancing too, like
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll try and tell people like I'm an introvert. And they're like, sure.
Yeah.
Because it's like I'm just like the masculine, it's the masculine DE coming out.
Yeah. Right.
It's like, do this. or the other joke is like, it's like we're dancing in a circle and I'm like, hey, you dancing with me, keep an eye on them, they might stab me in the back. Like projecting aggression and just playing that off as a joke.
Yeah.
It can work, but sometimes it doesn't. So it's just
Yeah.
like, but it's so explosive. But like I do feel the blast like whisper sometimes. But once it comes out, it's like, "Brr!" It's bad.
Yeah.
So,
It's such a superpower to me. I wish I could do that. Like,
I know, I
yeah.
do hear that, but I have feminine saviors, and they're so like,
Oh yeah, like you're easily. Yeah, I say that would be the flip side of the superpower is that it's very very hard to move me. Like you can't, you can't move me. Like I'm in control of myself. I think.
oh god, does that mean I'm not? Yeah, of course
No,
not.
not like
No,
in control, but I just
it's
yeah.
fair. It's fair. I'm not in control, and I accept that. So, but yeah, it just feels like once I start talking, I have a booming voice. But the thing is like we're both EPs, and for me, it's just like for me, which is probably less for you, is for me, it's like channel change. I'm gonna do this for my mission. 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 Like,
Yeah.
and it's like, okay, why? Like, and it's at least with the femininity, it's like, okay, and the one, I'm at least kind of circling the drain. There's kind of there's a direction that, like what you were saying with your FI. Mine is people in the dark going through really dark emotions. Like, oh, I want to help there, like in the same way. So, but for you, it'd be like, okay, I figured out this path, solid, going this way, and then you're like, ah, but you still get like in the outside world, you're like, ah, but you're like wiggling through it. But you're like, same direction. We don't need to change this. So be very solid. But how do you feel like? I've talked to other ones who actually have a lot of trouble connecting with people, which, I mean, I get, and that's what I'm practicing. But for yourself, like, is that hard for you? I've had ones who are like, oh, this is the biggest problem in the world. And how do you see that in yourself? Like, do you not?
Yeah. It's something that I'm actually like processing now, because I wasn't seeing it because I'm so comfortable in my own company. So I never saw it as a problem because I just didn't think there was anything wrong with being in my own company. But I do have like desires to like have romantic connections and stuff like that. And I always wondered why all of my romantic like connections don't work out. And it's starting to make sense now. And I'm seeing it now. It's like because I'm seeing someone right now, and he's so he just always wants to call me, and I never want to. Even if I like, because I'll like want to talk to someone, but I don't want to talk to anyone. And I'll like want to pick up the phone, but I don't want to spend longer than an hour in somebody else's company. And we had a whole conversation around like love languages, and it just made me, because I used to think quality time was my love language. And I realized yes,
we will talk about that, but keep going.
Yeah, like in reality, I'm not spending quality time with people. I'm really not. Like I say that I want quality time with people, and I miss it when I'm not around people. But to be honest with you, I I don't go out seeking people's company, and even when people want like come to me for company, I'm very quick to like get them to like go away. So I think the way that I'm behaving is not reflective of anybody who enjoys other people's time and company.
So I was thinking through this for myself because I was like, wait, I always said quality time. I said quality time, and I'm sure like, and I was like, oh wait, what is quality time really? It's really quality time in the absence of all the other methods of affection. It's like we're hanging out and we're not trying to do something else for some other reason. We're just bumming out. That's what quality time is. I was like, because I was like, well, we're hanging out and we're doing this so that I can do this thing on my mission. I'm learning something, and that's the quality time, and that's why it's quality, because I'm on a mission and you're helping me.
Yes, exactly.
Like exactly. And so it's like, oh, that's not quality time. Like that's acts of service, and also you're doing something because you want to be the best and you want to like someone to compliment you on it for your ego. Like
yeah, exactly.
But I find if you can play a leverage game with yourself of I am hanging out with these people for a purpose. You have to figure out where it's nested in. It's just like how the animals are nested within each other, you know. It is like I've had people be like, well, why did you care about this person? And I'm like, well, they were gonna help me on my mission. And they're like, do you have no romance? I'm like, like it's like it has to be somewhere. It feels like it has to be somewhere within it, and then actual connection happens. It's just like, you know, I'm going out to running clubs right now, and it's like we're running for 4 miles through hilly trails, and if I go running, I have to be at the front or behind the person at the front. I'm like, I was like, don't go try and run ahead of everyone else. You'll die immediately, right? So just be behind the person, just awkwardly, just don't say anything. But like they're all talking. They're all talking very like they all know each other. They're all talking stuff, and I'm like, just be quiet and just listen, and don't say anything weird. It's like, and then we go get a beer afterward, and I say one joke, and I get 2 people to laugh, and those guys maybe like me now, and I didn't embarrass myself or act like a weirdo. Was like, this is my mission, you must hear it. Like, it's
exactly. Yeah. I think you're onto something though, because it's like with I don't know if this is similar to you, but it feels like my interactions with people are very conditional, and we can only hang out if there is a purpose to this hangout. But I think what you're talking about in terms of leveraging it would be a really good way to increase that quality time that you have with people, because I don't know how it is for you, but in my head I always have a mental checklist of what the function of this friendship or this relationship is, like what the function of this is. So like I have a friend who he's the finance guy. So if I have a finance question or a finance problem, then I go to him. And then I have this one, he's a relationship guy, he's a relationship person. So if I have problems with like relationships, or I just have a question about anything going on in my relationship, that's when I'll go to that person. So I think leveraging it could be something along the lines of like spending more time than you usually do, not just when you want something, but actually like you know, spending more time and like scheduling that in or something, but just ensuring that you still get something out of it. So if it's like my friend with the finance, rather than only calling him up when I have a finance question, okay, let's hang out once a week and still kind of talk about finances so I get something out of it, but also just to make sure that we are like increasing that quality time. Otherwise, you won't hear from me until I need something. Like that's
I know it's so bad. It's so bad. It's so
bad. I honestly feel sorry for the people who love me, because I'm difficult.
I get it. Oh, that makes so much sense. Oh my god, it's so funny. Whenever I talk to them once, I just whinge. I'm just like,
it's cringe. It's so cringe. It's so bad.
Yeah, ones are the cringiest. I do think ones are actually the cringiest.
Yeah, I think so. The most intense, I think that's why it's the whole mission thing. It's like we really just don't let up. Like we definitely do need to lighten up. Well, for me anyway, I need to lighten up.
that's what I've been practicing because in my head I was like, I can't go out because when I go out, I only have one thing on my mind, which is my book. It used to be my book.
Yeah.
And then I'd go out and I'd be like, let me barf out my so that you can appreciate how cool I am. It's like, it's so cringe that it's like now I can actually go out and I'm just like, no, we're just chilling. And if the
Yeah.
conversation goes around, someone might ask. I go, well, here's the basic stuff. Instead of it's just like what? I was so afraid. I was like, you have to respect me up front. You have to already respect you. People will respect you more if you're just relaxed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And you can get around to it. You can get around to it. You got to put the long con.
Yeah. Exactly. It's hard to be present when you're always thinking about your mission. Even if you're hanging out with people, there's always somewhere else not better to be, but there's always somewhere else you feel like you should be. Something else you feel like you should be doing.
Yeah. And then you're still blast last, so it's still like, I should go be doing this, and consume. So you're like, oh,
yeah. Yeah, exactly.
But so you got your feedback from Dave, and I heard that he told you, like, this is something I kind of think about your type, is that it's a very versatile type. I often just think that, it's
Okay.
like out of the box, it just works.
Okay.
Am I wrong? Like, I got that.
I don't know what you mean by that.
The way I've kind of put it is like gammas and lead consume is kind of like, okay, this actually like works for a living organism where it's like consume what you like. That makes sense for an organism.
Okay, yeah.
Right. That makes sense to get along. Like, so your type and your consume and your play is actually like, your quadra is the most. I think there's a spectrum of down to earth, and your type is the most in reality, like looking at physical reality and interfacing it. Whereas like the NTPs, they're like, they understand all this stuff, and they're like, reality, like,
yeah.
And there's actually a spectrum there, and we noticed that between, like, I noticed I'll get along with the betas, and the betas are my opposite quadra, but the gammas and the alphas, they're like, you're a bit farther away from me. Like, it feels like you're like on that spectrum.
Yeah.
So I'm like, the ESFP, I'm just like, it's a versatile tool set. It works out of the box, like they said that with that one play last ESFP one. Do you remember her? What's her name?
Gonna have to give me a little bit more sensory for me to get through. So many play last.
But it was a class where they brought her up, and they brought up a 4 ESFP of the same type, and they were like, look at this one who's a number 1. She's a sensor, and she's rushing life more head on. Like, she's not getting distracted because she's actually upfront able to deal with it. Now there will be the intuitive fuck off later, probably, maybe, but like, she's able to more readily interface with reality. It feels like it feels like gamma is the most like actual, like, oh, that makes sense for an organism to be set up that way. Like, oh, like, that is actually how we talk about feelings. They're my feelings. Like, most feelings, like, and sensationalism on the outside, intuition's on the inside. Like, I think that actually makes sense. Whereas for me, it's like, it feels like sensory has to come in through it being organized and zoomed in. It's like, it feels inside out. It feels like a thing, like it's flipped.
Yeah. I mean, I've said that a couple of times. I think generally it's a lot easier to be happy when you're a gamma. I think because it's the most basic functions. Like, we are so basic. It's just a lot easier.
Everything has value. All the different types have value, but I'm just like, I'm basically saying it works more up front. That's how it works more up front. Whereas the other ones are like aberrations.
Yeah. Because I think like with the consume, like it's so simple. Like it's just a simple way of looking at life. It's just not complicated. It's very straightforward. So I think it's just a lot easier to just get through life sometimes. It is what it is.
Yeah, it is what
Or
it
it
is.
isn't.
Yeah, but we all have our issues. We all have our.
Of course, yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm not saying that I'm like the most
Oh,
happiest person in the world.
everyone bow down.
I know.
No, I think it's all valuable. Yeah. But yeah. Do you want to speak at all on like Dave's input on your social type and how you kind of process that?
Yeah, so I mean, do you have a specific question or do you want me to start randomly?
I mean, all I knew was I heard I heard that he said it's a good type. It's a versatile type or something like that. That's all
Oh, I don't remember him saying that.
I don't know. This is hearsay. This is so I should.
Oh, I remember him saying it's a friendlier type. I don't remember anything about versatile unless I interpreted it wrong.
Oh, okay. I don't know. This is me talking to someone else. So
Okay.
let's just drop it. You know what? Why don't we move on to the questions? The 7 questions. So Maria,
yes,
if you could be famous for something, what would you want to be famous for?
it would be for writing the Harry Potter books.
For writing the Harry Potter books?
Yes, it's the biggest. It's the best piece of artwork that I have ever had the pleasure of consuming. And I'm just like giving away my consume here. But I reread the books every single year.
Oh, really?
Yes, because I just think it's a philosophical masterpiece. And it's just incredible that this one person created not just she didn't just make a story. She made a whole universe that had a huge cultural impact. Maybe it's not such a big deal in the States, but in the UK, it's
a big deal.
It's big, yeah. So it's just the ripple effect that she has created, the world in the universe that she's created, and the impact, the cultural impact that has had. I mean, the word Muggle is in the dictionary, and you know what I mean? Like she's literally imprinted herself into history forever. And I don't know if you know this, at King's Cross Station in the UK, in London. Yeah, there's a huge shrine of like 9 3/4 at the station. And then every year on September 1st at 11 o'clock, there's an announcement of the Hogwarts Express leaving the train. So she's just made such a huge cultural impact. And apart from like what she's done, I just think the work that she's done and the writing, it's incredible. It's a masterpiece, and it's so intricate, it's so detailed, it's so well thought out, and yet so simple. Like the story is very, very simple, and it's stories that you've heard, you know, time and time again, like the whole hero's journey thing. It's a simple story, but every time I read it, I learn something new, and I take something new out of it, and it's actually something that I'm gonna use to help like teach my kids lessons that I want them to learn. Because you learn a lot about like death and family and like love and heroism and sacrifice and all of those like good lessons. And I just think it's a masterpiece, and I'm so frustrated that I'm not the one who came up with it. So if I was to be famous for something, it would be writing for the Harry Potter one.
I'm sorry. I'm so drained right now because yes, I am also obsessed with Harry Potter, and for the longest time, my dream was to base it. Like I was like, yeah, okay, good type, similar to J.K. Rowling. I'm gonna do this, and then I'm like really realizing I'm like, I haven't done enough of my hero's journey. I mean, I've gotten to some trouble. I'm like, it's the hero's journey for me is gonna be monotony. Doing monotony. So I'm not like my book. What I started to realize the things I had it was my Winchester Mystery House.
Okay.
So it's like, and some people pointed that out to me. I was like,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, I completely agree, and I love the. I was with my family. I was the one going to the midnight releases.
Yeah.
We'd be on vacation at a lake. I'd be like, nope, I'm reading Harry Potter for 3 days, and I'm just staying in bed for 3 days, reading it all, not even stopping.
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved it, and I was like, it'd be in school. It'd be like, do you want to do the ABCs? I'm like, yeah, I'll do the ABCs, and they'll be all the spells from Harry Potter. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. It's just, she's genius. To me, she's the smartest person in this world. Yeah, it's just so creative. I cannot believe that this entire, yeah.
I want it.
Yes.
I want to
if
do
I
it.
had a time machine, I would go back and rewrite.
You would just steal her stuff, but then it wouldn't be yours.
Yes.
Of course, you get some face, smash and grab. Like that, but that didn't come from you. Well, she got it from somewhere else too. You know what they say? You know what they say about artists? Mediocre artists borrow. Great artists steal.
Oh.
And to elaborate on that, when I said that to someone, they're like, "Yeah, Picasso said that." Is what it means is stealing in art is taking someone else did and doing it better that people think of you before they think of them.
Yeah.
Whereas borrow, so I think of it as like Tolkien stole 3 different mythologies. He stole Celtic, Germanic, and Christian mythologies, and he literally jacked the names from like Norse mythology, like Gimli, Gandalf, all that stuff, Aragorn. But people think more about Tolkien than they think about Celtic mythology.
Yeah.
Right. But like, what is borrowing is he created a genre that everyone then copied, where it's almost formulaic.
Yeah.
And they're all just borrowing from him.
Yeah.
They're all just borrowing from him.
Yeah.
Whereas he stole.
Yeah, exactly.
Do it better, that they think more about them than Tolkien, but okay, don't. But you got me on the subject. This is my,
yeah. Well, I mean, if you read the books, nothing in there, like a lot of what she writes about, and a lot of the mythology and stuff is based off of like it's already existing folklore and mythology. So it's not like she did anything new. She just took it and just adapted it and placed it in this world, and it works. And it's the same with the Hunger Games. That story, I don't know if you're into any like Japanese movies or anything like that.
I'm into what?
Any Japanese movies or anything like that?
Some.
There's this Japanese series. What's it called? Battle Royale, and it's based off the same premise. And there's a lot of talk around how the writer of the Hunger Games basically stole that. But everyone knows this whole theme of like young kids fighting to the death. For politics, they associate that with the Hunger Games, but actually that's a story that's already existed. But now people think about the Hunger Games first before they think about that. And the old one is even better. But like, yeah.
Wait, does that come from Lord of the Flies? What? I don't know. Like, creativity is not original. Like, here's the thing. Like, worldview, like, you'll hear people say this, like, oh, I'm not unique, like, FI. And it's like, bro, get that out of your head. Like, you gotta, you have to accept that you're not special. Before you become conscious. And then at least you're like one of the people who's conscious, who's rare. And I'm not there. I'm still an unconscious dum-dum.
Yeah.
But it's just like you need to stop caring about it, because you're a copy of a copy of a copy.
Exactly. There's nothing new under the sun.
What?
There's nothing new under the sun.
There is nothing new under the sun. Oh yeah, that's so we're EP saying that. Oh, we're so growth mindset.
Yeah, spoiler alert.
Pat on the back for that. Yeah, nothing new under the sun. We're so conscious.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. You know, what was it? I saw someone somewhere said Dave said one's either like they're either into their business or being some type of guru, like to lead people. You giggle, you laugh.
Yeah.
You're like, I want to be the guru.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think even before OP, I think that was always that was always the path that I was heading on. Whatever I did, it was kind of I wanted to position myself as some kind of guru. That's how I saw myself, as like I know better, so I'm gonna lead everyone to be better and do better. Like I still to this day, that's just the energy that I bring. I'm always like with that mentality of I've got to lead people to do better. It gets me into trouble because I'm just that can be a bitch, but that's just unfortunately that's the disease of my social side.
I know, and I think there's a lot of we can achieve a lot of fulfillment there.
Yeah.
I think it's capable, but I think the programming of the one is like, I'm gonna save the world, and then when you actually like, you're like, okay, statistically, Pareto distribution, luck, growth mindset, and then seeing how hard it's actually gonna be, like,
Yeah.
what are the chances? And is that just in my head? You
Yeah.
know, like, so you expect so much on the front end, and
Yeah.
then are so disappointed. So you have to. I really think as a one, you have to start lowering your expectations.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Because you just get frustrated.
you get it's the chip on the shoulder, and you got to knock that chip off and be
Yeah.
grateful. And
Yeah.
then I'll be like, okay, I can find places where I can find this leadership, fulfillment, helping others. And I think, gosh, like you and I are actually very, seem very similar, but it's the FI stuff, like it's the FI stuff. So I mean, we FIs, right? I had a few people tell me this because I was like, I have nothing to give. Have you ever gotten to that point where you're like, oh my god, I have nothing to give? I actually have nothing to offer. Like I thought I had something to offer, and it fell apart. Or have you not? You have? Okay.
Yeah. No, especially with the bluff laughs, it's the reason why I don't often contribute in conversations. I don't contribute in discussions. I don't contribute in group settings because in my head I have nothing to offer either because I just assume everybody already knows it anyway because belief consume everybody should already know it. But also just because somebody has probably already said it, so why should I say it again? That kind of stuff. So that is a huge insecurity for me, and it's the reason that it's one of the biggest reasons that stops me from contributing in social in group settings because I just feel like what do I have to offer? Like who am I? Like where? You know what I mean?
Well, I'll say this was input for me is that what people were saying in me as everything was falling, like everything was collapsing inward, was they're like, hey, you're understanding your emotions, you're going through it, and that's the value of FI is you can go into the dark with people and be with them in the dark because you fully processed it, and you can actually resolve your emotions. And that means you can help others do that.
Yeah.
So for me, I was like, oh, I'll do it by my grandiose book. And then I'm like, wait, I'm actually an asshole and I actually don't even have a good message. And actually it's just my trauma, and which is all writing.
Yeah.
But I actually have to get outside of myself and resonate with others to tell a universal story. Right.
Yeah.
But I was like, you know what? I actually should just start stepping into people's worlds and helping them. And for a while I was like, I don't want to. And I'm like, oh, actually this is something that's been like that. There's a part of me that wants to do, and I didn't feel ready. I even had people going, you're not ready to do that. Which is crazy. Like, or like it was absolutely true. Because the flex gets in the way.
Yeah.
Because you're like, me again. My utility.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah. I think you're right on something.
Yeah, but the thing is you're literally a CBT therapist, and I was like, I'm in a middle stage right now, so I'm like, I'm training for an IT thing, but I'm like, I might want to go work on the suicide hotline for 6 months.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
I just think that'd be I think that'd be good for me, and I finally feel like I've settled the trauma.
yeah. That's good. Yeah,
Like for real. Like, and I was just like, when you just start going like, so for me, and I don't mean to discount other people because sometimes I project this. I'm like, my God, my trauma was like projecting stuff on other people and misunderstanding people and blah blah blah. And it's like, I don't know what it is for. I don't know if you have trauma. I don't know if you've dealt with it. I don't,
yeah. I mean, trauma is a very big word, isn't it? I think um, there's there's different types of trauma that people can experience, but I think if you're talking about psychological impact, I think everybody has that to some extent. Has you know has been psychologically impacted in some way, shape, or form at some point.
I think it's programmed into us based off the imbalance, you know,
Mm,
because I'm gonna get traumatized that I couldn't do the ST. Well, I wasn't, for me as a one. Also, it's like I wasn't good enough. I have to be
mm,
the best, and I failed, and I didn't save so and so, and blah blah. Is like
mm,
none of that's real. No one's expecting that.
mhm, mhm,
The
mhm.
world will go on. You have to accept. The world is gonna go on, and
Yeah,
you can just move it just a little bit and stop
yeah,
thinking that it's like stop thinking it's heaven and hell.
yeah,
Stop thinking the world is gonna go to hell and you're gonna take it to heaven.
yeah. It's such a good point. Yeah, no, but it's good that you're getting to a point where you feel quite comfortable sharing your trauma and talking about that to a point where you're helping other people. Because I think with the FI, it's this is one of the things I was talking to Dave about when he was trying to help
Mhm.
me with my past. So it was just trying to help me like what am I going to do with my career wise and stuff like that. And I was basically telling him that I think like my passion lies in like depression or like depression work, trauma work, that kind of thing. And it was basically saying with the FI, like we definitely feel at home with the darkness. It doesn't. You get to a point, like you were saying, where you've owned because you've gone through the depths of that emotion. You get to a point where you've owned it, and it's at a point now where it's like, you know, pain, emotion, it's fine. You kind of own it, and so you're in the best position to be able to, like you said, help people move through that, move past that, especially if it's something that you've resolved yourself. And so all of that dark stuff is if I feel very at home, which is very true. A lot of people obviously shy away from like depression work because of the suicidality and all of the self harm that comes along with it. To me, it's stuff that it might come across like I'm cold, but it's at a point where it's just like it's more like an acceptance. And so stuff like that doesn't trigger me. Um, I just understand, like I get it. So I love working with depression, and I love working with people who are like literally on the brink of just not wanting to be here anymore, and just being able to like listen back and finding some kind of motivation or purpose of existence. But only because I think with the FI we're just so at home with the darkness. Like it's sometimes it kind of feels like a blanket and comforting. Um, just talking about darkness. I
Well,
find myself gravitating more towards conversations that are a little bit more darker in nature.
yeah, I get that. Um, God, I had a thread. In the darkness, I'm so sorry. But yeah, going into the darkness with people and settling it, it's hot. It's for me, it's like it's just like, okay, you just gotta accept that you gotta go through this emotion.
Mhm.
And in that day, go like just get it out, get it out, get it out. And I think the point at which like they were talking about this, where you're like building on darkness, building on emptiness,
Mhm.
is where like the growth begins to start. Oh, what I really wanted to talk about was that there are times when you're like, where you've had it where this is impossible, and then you meet the people who are kind of stuck in that. This is impossible. And hearing the message, like even hearing the message from Shan recently for the consciousness class, she was like, the part where she went, I know you feel like this is impossible, but in all the interviews of We Watch the Older People, what did they want to tell their younger self? This is gonna be all right. Everything's gonna be all right. I wish I could tell my younger self that. And so I'm less like, I want to help the people who are like, this is impossible. There's no hope. Like,
yeah,
I was there. I get you're there. I'm just going to tell you there's a way out. I hope that piques your interest. Because sometimes you're too afraid to even walk towards getting out.
Yeah.
And it's fear. It's fear holding you back. Like, but where else are you going to go? So.
Yeah, it really is going to be okay. Often feels like it's not, but I second that. It really is going to be okay.
Well, I mean, for me, what I've said for a long time is like, there's this line going up of suicidality. I'm like, I just want in my lifetime to see that go down. That's what I like.
Yeah.
Now, that's an objective graph. Like, we can't deny that's happening. Observer problems, but they're not real.
Yeah.
So, okay. I think we're ready for the next question. Maria.
Yes.
What would constitute the perfect day for you?
So the perfect day for me would be, it's not that exciting. So I imagine it would be, I wake up naturally, so I don't wake up to an alarm.
Okay.
I wake up when my body wakes up, when my brain wakes up. And then take my time getting ready. Usually that takes me about 2 hours. Not the actual getting ready process, but just from the time that I wake up to the time that I get out of bed, about a 2 hour process if I'm waking up naturally. And then going, sorry?
Do you drink coffee?
Yes, but only decaf.
Oh, really?
Yes. Yeah. Otherwise I get very jittery and very, and then I struggle to sleep.
I've had that, but I realized I couldn't drink coffee after like noon, and I had to start adjusting from there because it can have a 12-hour half-life. But go ahead.
Yeah.
More with your perfect day.
Yeah. So I wake up naturally, take my time getting out of bed, and then go for brunch with someone who I enjoy their company. Preferably brunch where there's a view, a sea view, or an ocean view, or a river view. So have a nice brunch. Then after that, take a nature walk, a park, the woods, somewhere with lots of nature. Just take a very long walk and talk with good company still. Just talk about anything, everything, whatever's on our mind, talk about life. And then go home, relax a little bit, watch a couple of films, talk some more, and that's it for me. That's the perfect day. It's really that simple.
I mean, where's your grand narrative? No, I'm just kidding. I'm asking for.
I mean, a lot of it is just consume. It's the whole day just consuming. So for me, that would be my perfect day.
The whole day just consuming.
Just the whole day just consuming.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be my perfect day. And it's not even the case that I don't have that very often. I actually have that very, very often.
I'm so jealous of you. You seem, you were right. You were telling me about that earlier. It's just easier to be your type.
It's so simple. So basic. It doesn't all happen at once, but I have like bits. Like today, I woke up naturally, and that was amazing. I had a very beautiful lunch yesterday. It was beautiful. It was amazing. I loved it.
What was it?
Oh, I had Indian food. I love it. My favorite. So yeah, that. Yeah. And then also yesterday evening, I was consuming. I was watching One Piece. That was fun. That was bliss.
Oh, the live action show on Netflix.
No, I was watching
the anime.
Yeah.
The anime.
Yeah. So yeah, it happens not all at once, but it just has. I have moments where I'm just like content and just like this is all I need.
Nice.
Yeah.
Next question, Maria. For what in life do you feel most grateful for?
My parents.
Your parents?
Yes.
That's a good answer. How
My
did you
parents.
feel that your parents, I'm just going to assume, raised you right?
No, they did not raise me.
They didn't raise you right? They raised you
No, they
wrong?
have no, they have we have very, very different views on a lot of we conflict on a lot of the major fundamental values and views on life. Um, but I would say that because my parents are very strict, they're very disciplinarians, and African culture is a very authoritative culture. So I'm rubber, you're glue kind of mentality, and you have to respect your parents no matter what. You can't talk back, and all of these rules. And it's very, kids are very, they have zero power, zero influence, and how dare you
The
talk back to your
dictator?
parents? Sorry.
And it is the dictator and the
Yes,
plebs.
yes,
You are the
yes.
pleb.
It is a very dictatorship type of environment. That's not the way that I want to raise my children. I don't want to raise my children like that. But I will say that my parents, they did right by me. And I will also say that, but this is something that I've come to believe. It's not something that I believed when I was younger. When I was younger, I was so resentful. But I think the older that I get, the more I realize that I'm very, very grateful for them. They've done so right by me. And I don't think anybody is ever going to love me in the same, like the way that my parents love me. Just not in how they show love, because again, we have different views on how to show love. But just in the fact that I don't think anybody else in this world is going to be as accepting of me as my parents will be, because no matter what, no matter what I do or what I say, they're my parents. They have to love me. So I just don't. It's very unconditional. Even if we don't agree, even if we don't get on, we definitely don't agree, and we definitely don't get on. But I can never. I don't think anybody else will ever love me with the same unconditional love that they love me. But in terms of why I'm grateful for them, it's because they they tried their hardest to try to shield us from a lot of things. They had their reasons. I don't agree with it personally, but that's how I was raised. Me and my brother were raised in a way because their sole focus was to get us through school, because back home school is a luxury. Only the rich can afford education, and you have to pay for education. It's not free. So they raised us by kind of trying to shield us and take away anything that would distract us from education. So we went to good schools. They really encouraged for us to sustain. So they did their best to try to like keep us away from any kind of like nonsense or any loud noise, which meant unfortunately that I grew up pretty naive, and which meant that unfortunately I had to do a lot of re-adulting when I was older, because my sole focus growing up was just to go to school, and I didn't learn how to do any of the other stuff. So I had to do a lot of re-adulting. But what I realized as I was getting older is that the amount of sacrifices that they made for us emigrating here, a lot of people don't have, a lot of my cousins, friends, people in our session, they don't have the opportunity that I have, simply because my parents were smart enough and hardworking enough to get us out of a situation that was going to make it very, very difficult for us to have the opportunity to live a better life. So they took us out of that situation. They brought us here. And even when we were here, they still made it so that we were focused on something that would help us to have more options. And it sounds very EP. But I live
it's true. It's true.
Yeah. I live a very completely different life from my family back home, because my dad in particular had the forethought of just wanting better for us. They're both EJs. I think he's ENTJ. I think he's a number one. But he wanted more for us. He wanted more for our life. And so that's what he did. And he worked extremely hard. Even to this day, my dad is very, very extremely hardworking. He's not the most affectionate person in the world. And when I was younger, that's the kind of love that I wanted. I wanted someone who was very affectionate. He was kind. He was kind and loving and things like that, but he wasn't. He was very hard. He was very strict. He was very number one-ish, aggressive kind of thing. But even then, now the older that I get, I just appreciate the love that he had to offer, because I think without him, my life would be very, very different, and I wouldn't have the opportunities that I have now. I wouldn't be able to do what I can do now. I wouldn't, none of this would have happened if it wasn't for him and the sacrifices that he made. And they're both EJs, and they both still give a lot. They make a lot of sacrifices to people back home. They're always paying for people's schools, people's tuition. My mom still pays for her sister's like livelihood, because it's very, very hard to get a job. So they make a lot of sacrifices, and they're always working to provide for other people. And that's what they did for me. And because of that, I get to live the life that I have now. So I'm just very, very grateful for them that I have the parents that I have, because compared to some of my friends, my cousins, I'm one of the only few people whose parents are still together. And I'm one of the only few people whose parents are still they're not, they don't they don't get themselves into trouble or anything like that. A lot of people in our circle, they parents and things like that, they drink and they have all of these other problems and drugs and getting into money situations. But my parents are very down to earth. Never had any problems. So I grew up in a very safe environment. I did not grow up in a dysfunctional environment whatsoever. They did very, very good, very, very good at keeping us away from any kind of dysfunction. It was a little bit emotionally unavailable family, but I think considering it's not as bad as I think a lot of people have it. So for that reason, I'm very, very, very grateful. That was such a
no. I love to hear it, for real. Because it's something we have to consider. Like, people kind of keep asking, how does OP relate to child rearing and stuff? So I mean, what are the trade-offs of sheltering your child versus not? Like, I was so sheltered that when I started coming back to my family and saying, hey, this is what's going on in the world, they were like, no, that doesn't happen to people. I was like,
yeah, exactly.
They just didn't even know about darkness in the world. I was like,
exactly,
this is what I'm dealing with, and I didn't know this happened so commonly, and now I'm traumatized. Like,
exactly.
But yeah, I got to be grateful that I was same stuff. But yeah, that's very admirable, and that's very How would you raise your kids differently, though? What would you do different?
I think in terms of communication, and I think in terms of involving my children, rather than restricting, I think it would be I would take a more learning approach, experiential approach, rather than telling my kids they shouldn't do this or don't do this, or taking away privileges or restricting them from doing certain things, because a lot of my parents' approach a lot of it is based off of fear. There was a lot. I was raised from a place of fear. That's what it was. It was, don't do this and don't do that, because it's coming from I'm afraid of this, and so I have to literally stop you from ever going to that place, because I'm afraid of the worst, right? So that's what it was. I was raised out of fear, and a lot of the things that my parents did, the reasons they did it is out of fear. So I think for me, it would be, rather than approaching these things from a place of fear, and also approaching it from just straight up, just like, don't do this, don't do that. I think it would be involving them in the conversation, and teaching them, this is why you shouldn't do these things, rather than I'm telling you and don't argue with me. Don't explain, no context. It's basically my type. Like, I was just missing context. I was just being told
context. Why you didn't explain to me?
Yeah, I don't know why you're telling me these things. Like, why? So I think for me, it would be getting my children to learn these lessons, but through actually learning them, rather than just rather than just telling them what you should and shouldn't do. I'm going to teach them, get them to learn. So that because once you learn the lesson, once you have that experiential learning, like you'll never forget it. And it's a lot more impactful when you've gone through that process and you understand why.
Wasn't there was a book, this sounds like a book or some experiment that some psychologist did in America. It was like free range children, and there was a big hullabaloo about it. She was like, I had my kid go home on the subway when they were like really young, and like everyone called the police on them and said blah blah blah, and they're like, I'm like, oh my God, like when you see some of the things that are stopping people, the anxieties,
Exactly.
in myself, I'm just like, God, I wish, you know, like there's psychological studies on like children need unregulated play with other children. Like they need to figure out how to negotiate with each other without parental figures coming in and all that stuff. And you kind of see it like there's these generations where it's like the Gen Zers in America, driving's big here, and there's a huge generational thing where they're afraid of driving. They're afraid of driving. And I was just like, yeah, let me drive. But it's like a whole generation. So it's there are people who say like things are safer than ever. We're just more aware of the issues. So I don't know what the answer is, because I really hate like seriously. I wish I could stop all the bad things happening that would happen in those scenarios. But I'm like, it seems like we're falling apart because we're getting brain rot, where our brains are turning mush because we're being enclosed too much sometimes. Like for some people, that seems to be what's happening, where it's like, you know, you move to the UK, wealthy country, and the wealthy countries are the most depressed. Why? I don't know. Like that is my observer problem.
Yeah.
Why? Let me figure that out. I'll get back to you.
Yeah.
But we can stop talking about it. But
yeah.
why do we bring it up? Okay. Maria.
Yeah.
What is the greatest accomplishment in your life?
Oh.
I mean, I sent you these questions ahead of time. Why are you surprised?
Yeah. Well, I didn't see this one. So this one's actually surprised. So I'm not prepared for this one. What is the greatest accomplishment?
Oh, now we can get the real shit, not the scripted stuff.
Okay, I would say that my greatest accomplishment in my life, I wouldn't say it's one accomplishment. I would say it's every time I do a good piece of work in my job. Because there's a lot of variables and a lot of factors that come into why somebody might not do better if they're going to therapy. But usually I can tell when somebody has done better because there's something that I've done that contributed to that process. And so it's me, the best accomplishment for me is whenever I see somebody has done better and I know that I have contributed to this. Because to see somebody go from a place where they are stuck, they're feeling hopeless, they don't have any skills, any tools to move themselves out of a situation, and also they feel like they are very reliant on other people in order to help them to manage those things in future, and to go to a place where somebody has tools, somebody's confident in using those tools, and somebody feels like they actually don't need anybody else to help them to move out of these situations in future. And when I know that I have been instrumental in that process, I can't tell you the joy that it brings me. But that is when I really feel like I've done something. Like I've really, really done something. So I'd say those moments would be that would be my greatest accomplishment, my greatest achievement.
Where you have given to others. Surface.
Yeah, I mean, because to be honest with you, I feel the most satisfied when I feel like when I've done something right for someone else.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds so cliche, but it and like being like I always want to tell myself that being self-serving would be better. Like that's just my default. Like go and sort yourself out first. But honestly, to be honest with you, I have noticed that the most fulfilling times is when I'm actually of service to somebody else. Like that for me, that seems to last a lot longer. That satisfaction, it's less shallow. It's not when I'm serving myself, it feels like a cheap thrill. It's like it's easy, but like when you're serving somebody else, because of how much it takes, um, and how rare of an occurrence it can be, it's more satisfying and more fulfilling. So, and I read because I take my job very seriously. So I feel like the for me I feel the most accomplished when I have contributed to somebody having a very successful outcome in therapy. That's when I feel the most accomplished. Wow, I've done something.
You've
I've done
talked.
something right for once.
Yeah. It's...
For once in my EP life, got it right.
Once in my EP life. Uh, I think there's not a wrong and right answer, but you definitely have the right answers.
It's funny. It's a good job of deciding that.
No more laughing. Okay. Um, okay. The thing is this is when I go. People are like, "Why are you doing this?" I'm like, I don't know. I'm actually learning so much from people. Or at
Yes.
least getting the right message hit into my head. So.
Yeah. No, I get it. I get it. Like I recently started a podcast and it's basically the
I saw
same
that.
format.
Yeah.
Yeah. I learned so much. It's just so incredible. Like it's because it's baffling to us. Like, oh my gosh, who would have thought that all we need the answer was just to get people's different perspective? Like, what? I'm not the be all end all. Like, what? Who would have thunk it? Not me.
I know. Also, on your podcast, kind of what have you been exploring? I saw that you were doing trainers, therapists, or
Yeah,
coaches.
so it's basically a mental health podcast, and again, it just comes back to
Mm-hmm.
me wanting to bring the message back to my community because, as I said, like mental health issues and therapy and all of that stuff is something an emerging field within our community. A lot of people don't go to therapy. A lot of like Black people, African culture, they don't go to therapy. Mental health is still seen as a witchcraft in a lot of places. The answer is usually to go and pray it off.
I was
So
about
it's
to. I was about to say
yeah,
the role historically was the priest. Was the priest
exactly,
was the community healer.
exactly, exactly.
So
So I still have a lot of conversations with like my cousins and family from back home, and they talk to me about like people who are showing signs of mental illnesses, and they talk about oh, he's gone crazy, and but it's usually just like normal stuff, like somebody's going through a very stressful period, a normal reaction to a very difficult situation. It's like, oh my god, he's gone crazy, he's lost his mind, he's insane, and it's just all these like really extreme interpretations of just a normal stressful response, and it just shows like there's just that really of understanding gap in the understanding of like mental health and how to help people who are going through mental health issues. So that's what the podcast is. I just wanted to open up the conversation of mental health therapy type stuff in our community just so we can start talking about these things, because actually what I've realized is a lot of people do want to talk about mental health, but because of the culture that has been reinforced, it's like it's still very much something that you don't talk about, stuff that you only talk about to your priest, to your parents, you keep it in the family. How dare you go and get a therapist and talk about that? So I just wanted to open up the conversation to help maybe people who are starting to think along those lines to validate their experience and know that, if they don't recognize that they're having a mental health problem, maybe they can start having a mental health problem, but also just to encourage help seeking.
You have the right. I was looking into this. You have the right answers, and you're doing the EP role. Like this is it. This is what we're made for.
Yes, right. I'm just giving the information. Like,
well, so like there was this therapist that I was watching, and then Habib brought the same guy up and sent it to me, which was a weird synchronicity. Which was it was a therapist in the U.S. talking about problems with therapy. And and Habib thought he was a Davey, like a Dave type, but he was saying he's like, there's a wall between the therapist, like what he saw. So basically, he took on the worst of the worst because he actually wanted to help. But he's like, it destroyed my mental health. It was too dark. The people turned away the people who couldn't get help, who had no one. And his conclusion was, this knowledge, this ability needs to be a bit more distributed in the world and known, like how to deal with this stuff so that people can just talk it out and like people can just understand each other.
Yeah.
And I think that's also like what OP is going to be for if we want it to be big. If we want it to be big, speak this language. Know what your issue is. Oh, that guy's just doing the regular EP crazy shit. There's nothing wrong. Oh, that guy's just doing the idea shit. Oh, it's just we'll just laugh about it.
Yeah.
Make fun of each other. And
yeah, exactly.
Like you're the problem. Yeah, like I am the problem. But but yeah, you're doing it where you're trying to get the info, the knowledge that is being built up out there for real, which is that's a job. That's our job. But yeah, I admire it. I admire it. It's amazing. Okay. Next question.
I hope I'm ready for this one.
Well, you're 1, so you're definitely not ready for this question.
Yes, probably.
What do you value most in friendship? And what does friendship mean to you?
Yeah. I had a hard time with this one because I couldn't figure it out.
All the flexors say that.
Really?
Kinda, yeah. Like sometimes they also have a weird answer. Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah, that really makes sense. I had to read. This is the one that I had the most trouble with because I was like, "What? What are you?"
I know. That's why I asked it.
I have this very unrealistic worldview of what I would like a friendship circle to be like. But this comes from me like consuming too much friends. That whole like friendship group where it's like core friends. Like Friends or How I Met Your Mother or stuff like that. Those type of sitcoms where it's just like a group of friends and they're like so codependent and they all like know each other. They have other friends outside of the circle, but they know that they're the core group. Like in my head, that is like the ideal like friendship scenario that I would like to find myself in. It's just like a core few, and we all know each other very well and we all support each other. When we're going through hard times, we're all there for each other. That would be like my ideal friendship circle. But unfortunately, I have a lot of friends, probably of my own design, by the way, probably of my own making, because of number one flexor, and all I do is just like compartmentalize my friends. But yeah, so I just have a lot of friends for specific types. I have friend A for this and friend B for that, friend C for that, and all of that stuff. And sometimes I kind of like have friends who kind of like ghost a lot. So it's very lonely. It can often feel very, very lonely, but also I don't really recognize the lonely because I'm so comfortable being alone. So it's a bit of a catch-22.
I know this is what I keep talking about with people. It's like 3 years, would talk to 3 friends once every 6 months. What's going on? Oh, I'm working on my thing. Let me tell you about it again. Oh, I'll just tell you that. Oh, this is what I came up with. Blah, blah, blah. And I asked this question to Shan and answered it myself in the relationship. I was like, how do you find objective partners? And I was like, was like, God damn it! I asked so many stupid questions. I actually have to ask this one when I like talked to Shannon. I was like, I asked so many stupid questions, brain not computing, spouting my
Yeah.
saviors, all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, but it's like, okay, I'm just going through it. I forgive myself. But like,
Yeah.
and I'm an example for everyone. Don't be this guy.
Yeah.
We'll do it. So I was like, okay, ask a better question. And it's like, okay, how do you find objective partners? I guess you just got to be on your mission, and then you will draw them to you.
Right.
Like,
Right. Yeah.
and she's like, you answered it. She read it off. She's like, you answered your own question. I was like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
I know. And it's like, but I want friends who will be close. It's like, well, you got to do the hard shit and
Yeah.
actually provide something to them. But like,
Mm.
go that direction. Go that direction.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't just muddle around and be like, I've made this mistake so poorly. Like I've made all these mistakes. Like
Yeah.
it's just bad.
Yeah. And actually, as you're saying that, I think I've just realized like my problem why I don't have that core friendship group, and it just comes back to like the number one thing is that that gone with the head, off with the head thing is so real. Like I will trial out a friendship group or a couple of people who like because I don't have a problem making friends. It's very easy for me to make friends. So I will like start build up a relationship, and then as soon as that person is seeming like they're not trying to do better, they're not trying to achieve better, or maybe they don't align with my mission. I'm like, yeah, let me move on. Let me move on. It's not the like off with the head energy where I'm just like cutting people off. It's just more like I don't invest.
Don't need it.
Yeah, I don't spend time like nurturing relationships the way that like I think the number fours do. Like even if someone's an idiot, like you will just be idiots together, you know? And they seem to just not mind with stuff like that. So they will like die together, live together, die together. Whereas I think the number ones are kind of like I will leave and go and go chase this thing on my own. You can all die on your own over there. But I'm not gonna die with you.
Well, I think I do think ones and twos and ones and other ones and ones and twos need to do like we're gonna have to pair up somewhere eventually. Like
Yeah.
Habib said this to me, and I'm like, yeah, I kind of thought that was, yeah, that's true. He's like, hey man, like if you want to be number one, like you got to fulfill all the roles. You got to fulfill the role of the one and the two and the three and the four.
Yeah.
Like you got to do it all.
Yeah.
And so when you start seeing that as a part of your mission, you're like, oh wait, I have something to learn here. Like maybe I'm just like maybe I'm not worrying about this being about friends, but it's just like this is all practice. This is all practice.
Yeah.
This is all practice. Like
Yeah.
Because what are you going to be king of if you don't have anyone loyal to you and they don't rely on you and you can't rely on them and all that stuff?
Yeah.
Like, but like it's painful for all of us. We aren't inbuilt. Like being a one or a two doesn't make you being a one doesn't make you special. It just makes you malcontent.
Yeah.
That's all. That drives you. Like that drives you, but like look at all the narcissists in the world who just fucking die miserable and alone and everyone hates them and they never changed.
Yeah.
Like, is that what you want to go down? So, yeah.
Yeah. I think I've recently what I'm trying to do is just trying to build a different relationship with my like demon friends isms. Because I just think rather than beating myself up over why I struggle with relationships and friendships like that, rather than just beating myself up over it, I'm just not being overly focused on it anymore. I think sometimes when you focus on things too much, it then tends to, I don't know, sometimes it has the paradoxical effect of actually making things worse because you're approaching it with a little bit more intensity. And so naturally, that's just going to not create a very nurturing environment for things like that to grow, especially because relationships are very nuanced and they're very complicated anyway. So I think when you're approaching relationships with an intensity because you're neurotic about them, I think that's just going to create a very unnurturing environment naturally. So I'm just trying to build a different relationship where I'm just not focusing on it. It's not. I'm just accepting that my mission now is like my focus now is just my last animal. Like that is my only job in this. Like if there's anything that I can leave this planet and say that I've conquered, it will just be my last animal. Everything else, I think, I'm just hoping it will work itself out. Um, but I think because of that, I think I'm a lot less stressed about relationships now. Because I'm just not. It's not. I'm just not looking at it with as much intensity anymore. Because when I do, I think I tend to kind of I get anxious about it. I tend to fuck it up.
No, I think I 100% I 100% get that. That makes sense. And that does happen with the one where we're like so focused. But it's like the friends energy so narrow and focused and extreme and such a swing.
Yeah, yeah. It's the same way that you would approach any of your other functions or animals. It's like the reason why, the last and the first function or the last and the first function are so you fuck them up so much is because you're approaching it all with intensity. Whereas the double observers, double deciders, they're able to approach it with a little bit more of a take it or leave it kind of energy, and they're less likely to fuck it up. But when you approach it with such an intensity, like it's do or die, it's all or nothing, that's when you start to fuck it up. That's when you start to go into those extreme swings, and that's kind of how I'm trying to approach trying to bring a little bit less intense energy to it, and hopefully, if I'm more relaxed about relationships, hopefully that will make it easier for me to nurture them.
Well, see, I'm trying to work out how I'm processing it right now is I'm going out and doing these activities because there is something else I want to do, and I kind of just, yeah, I don't know. Like for me, I've my mental health and all that stuff. It's like I have my issue, which is swings, and it's like exercise is gonna be a part of that, and I actually am gonna be able to exercise way better if I'm running with people because I'm competitive and I'm a 1 and I'm masculine DE and I'm feminine DI and whoosh if I run by myself. So it's just like make it work and don't take it too seriously and don't I don't need to be friends with these people. I'm just here and I'm not gonna who am I trying to impress? The only enemy is me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And relationships can smell it, when you because you just approach it with such a desperate energy. I think that's another thing, like with the number ones, when that friend swing, I think sometimes we can approach relationships with such a desperation that people can. It's just like the EJs, right? People can sniff desperate, and it toxifies the relationship. So you just want to be chilled with it.
Yeah.
Don't be the desperate, weirdo who can't make friends. Like
Okay. So like that goes to abundance and studying the alphas of like abundance. Like abundance is like when I do this, it's like you have to have the mindset of like I already have enough.
Yeah, exactly.
And I know it's my saviors, but Owen Cook basically talks about people are like, well, I'll have friends once I make a bunch of money and then I'll do it. And it's like, well, like he's basically explaining when you have the abundance mindset of I can be friends with anyone, that will get you more money. Like confidence is, and like you have to. I always use this example. It's kind of Owen Cook's teaching, going out and picking up women, and he's picking up like dozens of women at a bar, and he like shows his people, and he's like, that's not what's impressive. What's impressive was me walking down the street and saying hi to everyone. And people were literally like, fuck you. And he's like, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm fine. And he's like, that's the hard part. And then he's showing he's like, here's the crazy part at the end when I'm at the club doing some crazy thing. You're like, how did you pull this off?
Yeah.
And he's like, that's easy once you get through this. This is the unglamorous part.
Mm-hmm.
Go be unglamorous
Mm-hmm.
and get the confidence because you don't care.
Mm-hmm.
So
Exactly.
I'm just preaching my saviors though. So not allowed. Well, it's kind of play, so it's him. He's super extrovert. So I don't know. I'm pretty sleepy, so yeah. But I mean, you kind of we've talked a lot about friendship, and it seems like as ones we want. Like I see this even with my other one friends. Like they're trying to like muscle me in a way to their vision of how they think things work, and I'm like, hey, my FI is not there right now. Like that's not where my
Yeah.
FI is. Like, maybe that'd be nice, but really like I can't even process it because my mind is on the darkness stuff, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's more important to me. That's what I'm processing all the time. I cannot process doing this other thing that you'd like me to do.
Yeah.
And I've built so much more on it. It's like, sorry, that's where I'm going.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's why I'm trying to tell people is like, you, as a one, maybe I think you need to build it and they will come.
Yeah. Yeah.
Build it and they will come. Build the
Yeah.
community or build the structure or build whatever, and people will come to you, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah. So okay. Because I think as ones we are like, I want you to have my back, and it's just like, for what? My dream.
Yeah.
What about my dreams? It's like, but I needed a
Yeah.
friend to do this right now because I couldn't do my demons.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like you got to be able to do it yourself. That's the thing
Yeah.
with the ones. So
Yeah. It's what you were talking about, like leveraging it, because I think leveraging your, like, you're still a number one, so you're still gonna have the mission. You're still gonna, but I think like one thing that I've learned is that one of the ways that you can make friends is once you have your mission, you can take that back to the people, and then that's when you start making friends. Because it's kind of like what I've realized is that, with this podcast that I created, like that was part of my mission. And once I started to take that message back to people, people started to reach out. And from that, I've been able to make new connections with people. So it's in a way where you're taking build your, like, build your empire, do the mission, find a thing, and then take that back to the people. And then once you have something, and you're taking it back to people, you'll be satisfied. But then you're also going back to where you've left people behind, and now people are appreciating you because you've gone back to them. That kind of thing. So I definitely started to notice that, is that, when yes, of course, I have to like make myself happy and have my mission, but like when I am not just doing the mission just on my own in the corner and just continuing to work on it, when I actually bring that back to people, and it's also about like meeting people where they're at, because that, if we think about like the hierarchy where the number ones are up there and the number fours are up there, like sometimes once you reach the top of the mountain, you have to then come back down and meet people where they are. And it's not because I think with number ones, we always expect that we, like, in order for people to be friends with us, they have to meet us where we are. But sometimes I think we have to kind of meet people where they are. And for me, it was literally like, okay, so I've learned all of these things. I have all this information about mental health. So how do I now meet people where they are? Now I have to start bringing the message to them, but in a language that they will understand. Using things that they will understand, so that so I'm literally kind of meeting them where they are, but also like I'm still doing it in a way where I'm still doing my mission. There's still a purpose why I'm going back down there, where I'm going back to these people, I'm going back to this community, but it's just in a way that is meaningful to me and my mission. So I think that's also like one of the other ways that I've realized that it's a good way to make friends, is that when you have your mission and you then take that mission back to the people, that you're meeting people where they are, rather than expecting people to meet you where they are. Because we have high standards as number ones, and we always expect everybody to be doing good, doing better. But some people really do struggle with that, and some people, that's really not their, that's not that, especially like with the number fours, that's just not how they're wired. And so sometimes when you get your mission, learning to meet people where they are, I think, is the biggest lesson that I've learned, and a really good way for me to start making friends, because now like loads of people reach out to me, and I can start building relationships that way.
Mm-hmm. No, like for sure, for real. That's how it works. Absolutely, positively. I'm ashamed. You're ahead of me. How dare you? No, I'm just
We are in totally. If anyone is ahead of you, is J.K. Rowling. We're in totally different lanes.
that's very true. Well, I don't know. I feel like we are in similar lanes. Well, like, cause I actually like I need to learn more mental health stuff. I need to learn how to deal with people, because when I do go back to the book, which I'm trying to deal with lower ended shit right now. I'm allowed, and sort out my Winchester Mystery House. But it's the book is magic comes from mental disorders.
Oh.
So it's like, how do I get this information out there? Make it a fantasy, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, if this is the problem of our time, well, why don't we mythologize it? You know?
Yeah.
So that's
I love that.
That's all.
Yes.
It is.
Write it.
No,
I'm excited.
I don't know what to do.
I'm excited. Please write it.
Right. But it's just I gotta take my time, because it's not about it being a book. It's about it being a story. So
Love that. Yeah.
maybe writing isn't the calling, and what I've been trying to parse into is, the dream is for it to be a movie, of course. Well, what if I actually use AI, get the tools, get the animation tools, practice some animation in the meantime, and then eventually start just actually making it.
Yeah.
As a visual thing, because like it's the like Dave said, it's the movies.
Yeah.
And this is a new technology that is going to put hands in people who aren't part of the institutions, which is what always happens.
Yeah.
That will, like, hey, can I have a better story with you? And I don't need a huge budget because AI, but it's not going to be magic. Like, you still have to be able to work with it and adjust it in the ST. It's like there's so much ST blast I'm going to have to practice. So yeah, I think because for me it's a very visual kinesthetic world, and I'm like, okay, so it's up in the air. But I'm like, it'd be a shame if I didn't do it, because I don't see anyone else.
Yeah, if you've got a story to tell, please tell it, especially if it's something that you think is going to benefit so many different people, because a lot of people could use more conversations around mental health. I think it's just so important, says my FI.
I know, but like the stuff in me sorting out was, as I was going back and looking at it, I was like, oh, this is my trauma. It's very oneism and my trauma, and it's not like universally resonant. I literally would get very close to someone and start telling them the story, and they're like, you need more characters. It's like that's the stuff. Like, I need to take in the other people's stories quite a bit.
Yeah.
So, maybe I outline it and I have someone steal from me, but that's not how anything works. I don't know. I need.
Well, is there anything from these conversations that you can use? Because, like you said, when you're doing these interviews, you learn a lot from like people's perspective. I mean, is there anything from these interviews that you can kind of start to use?
I mean, yeah, you're all just characters. You're all just characters I can steal,
Yeah, exactly.
But I think it's just like, I'm just trying to I know I have to get into more trouble, because for me it's like I just keep falling into my old same shit. Like, I need to get into other people's stories.
Yeah.
So, and well, I will tell you, and I'm telling everyone now. So this is great. Now I'm writing my name to it because I've been talking about it. there is a part of me who wants to open up the door and allow anyone who's going through dark stuff in OP, like, hey, I'm seeing this stuff. Oh my God, it's so bad, to reach out to me. And like there are a few coaches, been a few coaches around, but not a lot of FI ones. It's like, but I've had people tell me, hey, you're not qualified. It's like, I'm like, okay, fine. How can I get the qualifications? And part of that's just like, okay, this is what I have to give being with people in the dark, you know? And
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll learn a lot. And, you know, who, if I can help someone out, you know, maybe we go on a mission together. I've been trying to find people on their mission for a while, and just like, I'm going to, you know, Flo, who does the watch party. I'm like, you have everyone here who's on a mission of understanding this. How did you do it? And he's like, you're going to have to show up every day, and maybe no one will show up for 5 years. And it's like, oh, that's shameful. Like, oh, I'm a loser. It's like, or, oh, I can't just hang out, but I don't know.
Yeah. Can I make a few suggestions?
Yes, please.
So in terms of what you said about qualifications, there's a lot of titles that you can use that actually aren't regulated. So for example, coaching is one.
I signed up for the CBT, like practitioner. It's called practitioner. I'm like, I see that's unregulated. So I've already paid for it, bought it. But I'm doing a career certification right now. So I'm like,
wonderful.
And I'm like, while I'm getting that, I've applied for the suicide hotline before. Might want to do that for 6 months or a year.
Yeah.
And that would be, because there is a dream actually that there's a part of me that wonders if it's in the cards, if I do actually want to give in some way to Dave and Shannon or work with them. And they've talked about, hey, we need someone who has their shit on lockdown. It's like, when I interacted with them, my shit wasn't on lockdown. And when I go back through their videos, they're like, we're going to need someone who's here talking to someone who's suicidal. And I'm like, hey, can I go get the book? Can I go get the rules list? And just literally, hey, I have this. I already have this. And I've done it.
Yeah.
Like, here's for the whole organization. Here's what they do, was just jack it, you know? I don't think they're going to hide it. You know, there's no shame.
Yeah.
This is what's working over here. So
yeah.
But
I think that
my brain is a Rolodex thing, so it's just like, the more I talk about it, people are like, you always have something new. I'm like, I know.
Yeah.
What's stopping me? It's always the SITE. It's always the SITE. It's always the process.
You would have to be very clear about what you can and cannot work with.
Yeah.
You'd have to go back to your history, your trauma, and say, okay, this is what I've owned. This specifically is what I've owned. This specifically is what I've owned. This specifically is what I've owned. These are the, you know, even if it's just one or two things that you've owned, very clear on what that is. You know, I've owned suicidal thoughts. I've owned nightmares, trauma nightmares. I've owned, I don't know, depression, you know, and then just be very, very clear on that. And then just, when you're obviously giving your coaching, you can just let people know that this is what I do and don't. This is what I can offer guidance, coaching in. This specifically. These 3 things that I've owned. And then you'll be less likely to kind of encounter situations that are going to make you feel like you aren't qualified. Because if you're only working and you're being very strict about who you can and cannot work with because you really identify that. Yeah. And then you feel less likely to feel like you're not underqualified for this.
Okay. So, suggestion was get certification. Put it on the door. Was there anything else? Put your disclaimers on the door for what you can deal with.
Yeah. Just yourself as well. Just be very, very clear. What have I owned? What am I comfortable really giving someone coaching and advice, guidance on.
Mhm.
And then, yeah, like you said, put that on the door and only accept those, which will be very hard for an OE because we're just like more, and anyone, possibilities.
I don't know. For me, it feels like I've seen someone who went through the worst thing that you can calculate. So, like, that was my trauma.
Mm-hmm.
So, I've seen someone processing in hindsight, going through the worst thing you can imagine. So, yeah. But I didn't know this was going to be such a wealth of information.
Oh, my bad. I didn't mean to overload you.
No. I was like, I don't know. I was like, I for some reason I didn't realize like how much we aligned and stuff.
Yeah, we're so similar. Like we are basically the same type. You were basically the same person.
Yeah, absolutely. So okay. I think we need to keep moving. Okay, next question. What, if anything, is too serious to be joked about?
I love this question, because I was just thinking back at a time times where I've made some very unserious jokes about very serious things. I don't think there's anything that can be too serious to joke about, but I think there's a time and a place, and I think you need to know your audience. You need to know who you're dealing with, because some people are very sensitive, myself included. So you can't be making jokes, very insensitive jokes around very insensitive people. I mean, you can, but just don't be surprised if there's backlash.
Yeah.
And there's also a time as well. Like some people, trauma and things like that is still very fresh. So you can't be making jokes when the wound is still very, very raw. Like you have to get a point where you are making a joke about something, taking that as something, when it's at a place where it can be laughed about. Like we can look back at it and laugh at how ridiculous. You know the way that Dave and Chan do the whole like let's just talk about how we're all idiots kind of thing because of our types and that kind of thing. Yeah, you have to like find the right time for you to laugh about something. And for people, that's very different. For very different people, you might be in a place where you're ready to laugh about something, but somebody else might not be in that same place. So I think that requires a lot of patience. But yeah, no, in answer to your question, I don't think there's anything that's too serious to be joking about. I think it's just the time and a place and the person as well. Like for example, like when we were at the Europe meetup, me and Chris, I don't know if you know Chris.
Mm-hmm. I know of him, yeah.
Yeah, we made a very very inappropriate joke about rape, which if it was anybody else, I would never make that joke. But like I know Chris, and it wasn't intended to be malicious or anything like that. We were just kind of making light of a very weird situation. But I know that like Chris is the type of person who likes to make jokes like that. So it felt like I was in a safe place for me to be quite lighthearted about. But I would never make a joke like that to somebody who it would trigger or it would make their situation worse. Like that, I would never want to do that. That would be the very last thing. But it's just knowing your audience and knowing the time and the place. I felt icky making that joke, by the way. Like I didn't feel good about it.
You don't feel good about
it? I didn't feel good about it. Like it felt so wrong.
Okay, I'm gonna have to tell you a joke after this stream. But like the situation was just so funny, and I was just like, just the people like it just got taken so far, and then taken to the person who it happened to. Like I was like, so we made this joke, and they're like, that's hilarious. I was like, okay, cool.
Yep. Yeah. Gotta know your audience.
Gotta know your audience.
I wish I was the type of person who can make a very dark joke to the wrong audience and still be okay with it. Like to me, it's just the most uncomfortable thing. I just feel so bad. Like just the idea of making a joke that's gonna make somebody feel bad. It's just I feel like it's like knives and stuff. So I think I would love to just not give a fuck to the extent where I can just make very dark, inappropriate jokes to people and not feel bad about the fact that I've made someone feel bad.
Well, that is usually the master class. That the way they do it is that they'll have made them laugh about something that's actually worse, and then they'll flip it around and be like, "Oh, you thought that was funny, but you don't think this is funny?" Like, ah, like you hypocrites, and then you turn on the crowd.
Yeah.
It's like now you're not laughing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's pretty masterclass. Yeah, it's still hard. Like I still say stuff some people find is funny, and I'll like, yeah, I'll still misread it. It happens. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard.
It is hard. Yeah. I do find that a lot of like the fours are the usually ones who are able to make it, because Chris is a number 4, so I can imagine why he's so comfortable with that.
Mm-hmm.
With dark humor, because the number 4 just tend to just not take things as much as seriously as like.
Well,
I know I would be sensitive about certain jokes at the wrong time.
There are 2 examples. Is that 4s tend to be comedians, and I think that's kind of like that they fall into it because it's if their job is to be friendly. It's like, how do I make friends? Make people laugh. Well, I keep making people laugh. Guess I better go become a comedian. Like that's why they end up. But they said that one play last ENTP Christian, or that John was it? I can't remember his name. The Asian guy. Do you know?
No.
He was.
Medium.
He was on one of the classes recently. Or they mentioned him. They mentioned that he was a 1. I can't remember his name. I want to look it up right now, but I don't want to waste time. So, but I'm like, okay, 1s can be comedians too, but it's like, I see why we see a clustering of the 4s and the comedians is because it's leveraging the savior of being friends.
Yeah.
And it's just like, well, I was already building up this skill. Whereas for me, it's like, I made a joke that fell in high school, and I was like, I'm never doing this again because now I'm ashamed. Like now I'm respected. Like
yeah. It's a sensitivity.
But then I'm an ENFP, so you end up just saying crazy, stupid shit. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. I think we're ready for the last question. Maria, how do you cope with the fact that you will one day die?
Yes, this is another interesting question. I don't know if I do. Okay, my thing is, it's not so much the fact that I'm going to be dead that bothers me. It's the how that I'm going to die is the thing that makes me the most anxious. So to me, the question is not like, are you afraid to die? I'm not afraid to be dead. I'm actually more afraid to be alive. I think there's so much more pain and suffering in being alive. So my focus actually is always on how am I going to live. Like that's what my usual focus is, because I think it's harder. I think it's harder to be. It seems peaceful. Being dead seems very, very peaceful.
I know. So as a 1, I'd be like, I die for this thing, and then it's like not working on it. It's like, well, will you live for it? Let's just talk then. You're like, it'll be a bang, and you'll see it. It's like, where's your blast? Where's your blast?
Yeah,
because that's where the suffering is.
Exactly.
Like exactly. So you're afraid of going out some painful way. Unpleasant way.
Which is why my focus is, I don't really focus on death, because like once you're dead, you're dead. And sometimes that to me, sometimes that seems more appealing. So my focus is always, how do I continue living? Like, how do I carry on living? Like, that's what I'm focusing on. And one of the things around death that scares me is, in those final moments, am I going to suffer? And I don't want to suffer. which is what causes me a lot of anxiety when I think about death. Is like, how am I going to die? And so I try to minimize how painful and horrific my death could possibly be. So I don't want to. I don't. If there was some way to die while I wasn't conscious, then yeah, I'd be all for it. Like, yes, sign me up.
Sign me up, pump me up with morphine. Just let it.
Yeah,
I just want my eyes to roll to the back of my head and be
yeah.
gone.
I just want to die a peaceful old lady who's just unconscious.
Unconscious.
An unconscious peaceful lady. But
Triggered. No being unconscious. You'll be very conscious.
Yeah, exactly. Unfortunately, I know too much. So yeah, I'm more concerned about how I'm gonna live. I don't always cope very well with that. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And it's what it is. You are focusing on the sensory thing to focus on.
Yeah, because life is harder. I don't. Well, for me, it feels like, I don't know if everybody sees that, but I just think life is just you're signing up to 70 odd years of suffering every now and then. That's tough.
Ugh, you're making me.
So I just think it just makes more sense.
Can you help me out now? Can you?
I'm so sorry.
This? Maria, there's this bitch called Maria who made me depressed.
I'm sorry, and it's the fact that I'm even saying this with such a straight face. Like, you're gonna have a miserable life for 70 years.
No, you're right.
But okay, just to bring a little bit more hope into it, I think the older that I get, the more that I've found a way to cope with how painful life can be.
Oh yeah.
There are ways to live with the pain and to cope with it and to learn to manage it. So there's your hope. It's gonna suck, but you can make it so it doesn't suck that bad.
No, I know. That's the whole message. Every day we'll have some shit in it, but there will also be bliss.
You will. Sometimes you even kind of like, you know what, shit. We're friends now. Like, you can be friends with your shit, you know?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. You can coexist with your shit.
Coexist with your shit. It is manure. It is the spice of life. It is what the sprouts will come from. The tree.
Exactly.
The glorious oak tree. You will use manure
to
fertilize it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think it's time to wrap up. It's been a great time. I really enjoyed this.
It has been a great time. I've had fun. This is such a good place. I love it.
I hope so.
Yes.
Well, thanks for coming on, Maria. I learned a lot. I feel inspired.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. Gives me the opportunity to practice some blast.
I hope I didn't blast too much or consume stories too much, but okay.
I feel like I definitely did.
No, it's your interview. You're the one who's supposed to talk. I'm supposed to talk less.
Oh yeah, that's right. I was allowed to consume story today. I forgot.
Exactly. Lay your cards on the table. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna close up the stream. Thanks for coming. That one person left, and anyone watching later, thanks for coming along for the ride.
I didn't even know people were watching, but thanks.
Oh, it was up in the corner. Oh, now there's 0. Okay. I'm gonna close it. I should